Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever find your mind wandering during a quiet moment and worry that you're messing up your memory? Well, this new study might just surprise you. So picture this, you finally finish studying or learning something new and you figure the best thing to do now to really lock it into your brain is to just relax, right? We all know that rest is super important for memory consolidation. It's like your brain is tidying up and filing away all the new information. But here's the tricky part: during these chill out moments, your mind can start to drift. It might wander off into daydreams or memories, and we often think of mind wandering as a bad thing, something that messes with learning. So how can we benefit from rest if our minds are likely to wander? During it, this study dives headfirst into that very question. The researchers wanted to figure out if this mind wandering thing actually hurts memory, or if it could even be helpful. They set up an experiment where people did some learning tasks and then took a break. This break could be either complete silence or listening to their own favorite music. While they were resting, the researchers would pop up little questions every so often, asking, hey, are you thinking about the dot patterns or something else? They wanted to count how often people's minds wandered. Then, after the rest period, they tested how well people remembered what they learned. They used two different memory tests. One was a category classification task, where people had to sort dot patterns into their correct groups. The other was a novel or old task, where people had to say whether they had seen a dot pattern before or if it was new. So imagine you're asked, were you thinking about the dot patterns just before this question appeared? You'd hit yes if your mind was on task and no if it had floated away. They did this multiple times during the rest period to get a good measure of how much people were mind wandering. Now for the most interesting part, what did they find? Well, it turns out the story is a bit more complicated and actually quite exciting. For one of the memory tests, the novel or old task, they found that mind wandering actually seemed to help people remember better. The more your mind wandered, the better you performed on this task. This is a big deal because it goes against the common idea that mind wandering always hurts learning. They also found that resting with preferred music seemed to be a bit better overall for this novel or old task compared to resting in silence. This part is really neat. When they looked at how mind wandering and the type of rest interacted, they saw something interesting. For the novel or old task, if you were resting in silence, mind wandering seemed to boost your memory performance. But if you were resting with music, the amount of mind wandering didn't seem to make as much of a difference. It was almost like resting with music was already so good for memory that mind wandering didn't need to add much more. Another key finding was that people actually reported mind wandering more often when they were listening to their favorite music compared to when they were in silence. This supports their idea that music, especially music you like, can really get your thoughts flowing and bring on those spontaneous thoughts. So what does this all mean? For the memory test where you had to decide if you'd seen a pattern before the novel or old task, mind wandering wasn't a hindrance at all. In fact, it looked like it might have actually helped. This challenges the old idea that mind wandering is always bad for learning. It suggests that during rest our minds wandering might be doing something useful for our memories. It's like our brains are reorganizing and consolidating information in a way that's even enhanced by letting our thoughts roam freely. Now, no study is perfect. One limitation here is that the patterns they used for the memory tests might have been a bit too easy to remember. This means that participants could have already been performing really well, potentially masking any negative effects of mind wandering even further. It's like if the test is super easy, everyone does well regardless of distractions. A really cool aspect of this study is that they used music that participants chose themselves. Many previous studies using music during rest used music that wasn't personally selected and sometimes found that music was actually bad for memory. But here, with preferred music, it seemed to at least not hurt and might have even helped. This hints that our personal connection to music could play a big role. It could be that listening to music we love puts us in a better mood, which in turn makes us more receptive to memory consolidation. So the big takeaway here is that mind wandering during rest isn't necessarily the enemy of memory consolidation. For certain types of memory tasks, like recognizing something you've seen before, letting your mind wander might actually be a good thing. It might be a natural part of how our brains process and solidify memories, especially when we're in a relaxed state, and when that rest involves listening to music you enjoy. It could be an even better recipe for memory success. It makes you think about how our seemingly unproductive moments of rest and spontaneous thought might be crucial for deeper learning and memory formation. This research adds a really important piece to the puzzle of how our brains consolidate memories. It suggests that we shouldn't always try to fight off mind wandering, but perhaps understand its role during rest. Future studies could explore this more by looking at different types of memory tasks and seeing if the benefit of mind wandering holds true across the board. They could also dive deeper into the role of mood and how listening to preferred music might directly influence memory through emotional states. It opens up a whole new perspective on embracing those moments when our minds are free to wander. What do you all think about this? Does this change how you view your own mind wandering during downtime? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more dives into the fascinating world of psychology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.